Good morning, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Bucknuts Morning 5 here on Monday, December 30th, 2024. I am Dave Biddle. Very happy joined by Dan Rubin. We're just 2 days away, my friends. All right, Dan, vibes in this game. I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. I do feel like the Buckeyes are going to win. I picked them to win by 4 points, but I also am expecting a up and down game. I think both fan bases are going to be very nervous throughout most of this one. I think the Buckeyes are going to come out on top, but just can't wait for this one to kick off, and it's going to be here in about 48 hours.
Definitely weird to have a Wednesday game. This first time through the playoffs. I don't know about anyone else here, but combined with the playoffs and the holidays, I don't even know what day it is when I wake up. But
right.
We got a show today, so let's talk about the Buckeyes. It's interesting, man. I mean, I've given this a lot of thought. Here's what I keep coming back to. So we've gone over like the Michigan game was the offense's, performance of the year that you can't really figure out. And, they made some changes afterwards. If you were going to have to say what the Michigan game was for the defense, it would be the Oregon game. I don't think they played as poorly, but I mean, you've been vociferous in talking about how you think a lot changed after that game in terms of mentality and scheme, but we could not stop them in the fourth quarter. And that was the only team to really light them up. So if the secondary holds up and Dillon Gabriel doesn't go off, I feel confident. If Dillon Gabriel and, Evan Stewart and Tez figured out a way to do it again, I'm going to be worried. And that's really what it comes down to for me. I'm confident that the offense will, especially in the nice, warm, passing weather, get the ball out and do all that good stuff. But really, it comes down to me, can we stop them? There was a point in time in the fourth quarter of the game against Oregon. I was like, we can't stop them. Can't stop them. Same feeling I had at the end of those Michigan games. Again, no punts. They had two really long drives. It's kind of a slow death based on the score, if you remember, when you're up 2. So that's what I got to see. If they come out and they're able to limit Gabriel, keep them within reason, I'm very confident. If not, I don't know what to tell you. They didn't stop him. I mean, if Oregon figured something out down the stretch there, they're in trouble. But Dave, I keep coming back to this, and you've done a great job of saying this. They don't play defense the way they played in that game. So I'm not saying this defense will work. There's no guarantee, but their scheme has changed enough that I think you should have some renewed optimism that they're not going to go bang their head against the wall and try and do the same thing.
Yeah, man. It's this definitely is the Jim Knowles defense now. It was like 80% the Jim Knowles defense, and then Larry was able to do. This is just me. They would never say this publicly, and why would they? This is just me. It's not spitballing. It's more than an educated guess. I'd bet a lot of money on it that Larry had some veto power with what he was doing with the front four. When they re-engineered everything, that means now Knowles is doing what he wants to do. There's no veto power. But yeah, I just love that it's fast approaching. And you're right. This time of year, it's almost like, even though we're working, it's like when you're on vacation and every day you're like, what day is it? And you're on a good vacation if you don't even know what day it is. That's what this time of year feels like. It's like what, this Monday? Like when I was doing the intro for the show, I was like, I had to think for a second. Wait, welcome to the show. It's Monday. Oh yeah, okay. So yeah, man,
it's the year is going to change for those of us who are mathematically disadvantaged. That's a challenge. So December to January, Dave, it's all coming at us at once. But
it's so cool. It's the Rose
definitely
Bowl.
Definitely geeked. It's
great. Yeah, I mean it's the fusion of both. You get the Rose Bowl, but it's not the relic. It's actually because it actually means something because it's the quarterfinal of the playoff. It's freaking awesome. You made a good point before we went on the air about the weather. I know Ohio State's coming off their best performance of the season, and that was in cold weather. Let's just get that off the table. But guys like Jeremiah Smith that come from Southern Florida probably don't hate the fact that they're now in LA. It's going to be beautiful weather 2 days from now. And then if they win indoors, they win again indoors. So any worries about weather's out the window? I know you think that's going to help the Buckeyes.
I totally do. Going from cold to beautiful weather, you just feel better. You run better. You're looser. It doesn't hurt as much when you get hit. I I can't even. And a lot of these guys, like you said, go through the list. I mean, just do the secondary. You got a guy from Georgia, a couple guys from Arizona. Not too chilly there. So I just like the idea also of just the nicer the weather, the more the talent shows. The more you have, the less you have excuses. The less you're limited to passing the ball. And if you read the boarding house last week, a former Will Howard teammate said, if it's not windy, he's much better off. His ball wobbles a little bit. I just think it's I think it's an advantage for Ohio State. I've always felt like if you go from cold. The Michigan game I was there, dude.
Yeah.
Okay. I had like 9 layers on and I still almost had frostbite.
And you were up there in C deck too, so you really got it. Those wind gusts, there was that didn't make it all the way down. That you were getting it bad. You should.
I don't know how those people do it routinely. I'm serious. The bathroom line was 40 minutes long. You ever had a panic attack? I've never had one, but I walked out to go to the bathroom and realized it wasn't happening. And for a split second, you think to yourself, if I really wanted to go to the bathroom, what would I have to do? And you are not close. You would have to walk somewhere, go somewhere. I managed to get over it and go back and freeze. But I just think it's a huge advantage. Also, it's not, if anyone's ever had the good fortune of being to the Rose Bowl, it's like room temperature weather. There's no humidity. You know what I'm saying? It's literally the most enjoyable football passing weather you can have. So I think that's tremendous. I really think it's going to help them, man. I really do. I don't think that's been talked about enough. We have a lot of guys who, like you said, are warm weather dudes who are going to get back out there and just feel so – they're happy being out there. When you wake up in the morning, and this I can tell you for a fact based on today, when you wake up in nice weather, it's nicer than waking up in the Gem City gray when it's like that cold that kind of gets into your soul. So I think it's going to be great. Everyone's going to be psyched.
Man, I'm psyched that I looked at my app and I'm like, geez, we're going to get upper 40s and sunny in Columbus today. How about that? So all you people in LA, including some of my guys on the beat that are enjoying the 70-degree weather, we're not too far behind you. Pretty far behind. Pretty damn far.
In fact, really.
It's like I'm as good as Ted Danson. You're worse.
No, you're worse. Much
worse.
He's not better than me. He's better than you. You're much worse. Much worse.
Much worse. No soup for you. I'm going to talk. We're going to bounce around. We're going to get back to the Oregon matchup for sure. I love what the Buckeyes are doing in the portal. I don't know how much you and I have talked about this because it really exploded, I think, the day after. They already had some guys, but I love what they're doing. Both offensive linemen, especially the big kid from Rice. I like the running back from West Virginia. I love the tight end from Purdue. Give me everybody. I like the DN from Idaho State. He's not going to start. That's going to be Kenyatta Jackson and Caden Curry, but he's going to add some nice depth there. Where do they go from here, man? One more offensive lineman, do you think? Do you think they'll add a quarterback just for depth? Because right now you look at the QB room, Dan. We're talking about Julian Sand. We're talking about Lincoln Keenholz. We're talking about a true freshman, St. Clair, coming in. Feels like just for depth purposes, they need to bring in a vet QB, or do they need to bring in a QB to even compete with Julian? I know a lot to unpack there, but I'm just curious, where they go from here. They already have landed 5. That's as many as they landed all of last year. So they're doing a great job. And what do you think? They're halfway done, or I don't know. I know it's hard to put a number on.
Some of it's case by case. So just to kind of refresh everyone's memory here.
Kicker. Yeah, good point, guys. Kicker. I love our listeners.
Let's talk about that after the playoffs so we don't jinx them.
Oh, God. Just don't let them kick field goals. How about that? Just score touchdowns. He's good at extra points.
Now that you said that.
He's good at extra points. Just score touchdowns.
Yeah, I've been psyched with what they've done on the offensive line especially. So beauty is in the eye of the beholder with transfers in a lot of cases. I was much higher on Ethan Onianwa than anybody else for a variety of reasons. One, he was a starting left tackle with experience who was basically an all-conference level player. Phillip Daniels probably has higher – if you want to say he had a higher upside, you can. But he is more of a project, I think, or coming out of his project stage and is more of a right tackle possibly. I think Ethan Onianwa could possibly I mean, if I had to gamble right now, I say he's your starting left tackle next year. He was a little bit devalued in the portal because he only has 1 year of eligibility, which to me doesn't affect you as much, especially at a place like Ohio State, where you really are more plug and play than you are trying to get development guys out of the portal a little bit more.
Luganville said, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this goes along through. Did you hear what Tom Luganville said?
I did.
He was shocked that he didn't go pro.
He's by far the best tackle in the portal.
Yes, he said he would have been a second-round pick. Buckeyes are getting a guy that would be a set. Now, if you believe Luganville, and I do, I think Tom does a good job, and he's connected. For him to be floored like that, for him to say he'd be a second-round pick, not like after he plays a year at Ohio State, he could be a second-round pick. Like right now in 2025 draft, he'd be a second-round pick. I can't believe that they're getting that guy. And it's too bad he's like a little undersized, though, right? 6'6".
Not at all.
6'6", 345. I love it. I love everything about that kid.
Played at Katy, from Katy High School, Katy, Texas. That's good football. Went to Rice, and also
smart.
If you go to Rice, you are smart.
Yep.
Okay. He's going to have no trouble picking up the offense here at all. Rice is I don't know. I mean, it's like Notre Dame level academics. You know what I'm saying? Just in Texas.
He also was looking at Ivy League schools coming out because he was a late bloomer. So he was looking at Ivy League schools in Rice. So yeah, smart young man, very smart.
And guys, for some positions that might be a little oogie on that. Offensive lineman, you're talking about guys having to grow into their body a lot more. Sometimes their scale just doesn't get started. Texas native Devin Sanchez, in all caps, Rice is a great school.
It sure is. We even know that up here. So yeah, she obviously knows.
They finished sixth. They were sixth in the Devin Sanchez Derby. They were sixth.
They finished sixth. Hey, at least he gave the local school
I don't know,
shout out. You don't know about that? You're just making that up.
Be flattered to have them recruit him, but you might want to say might not want to waste your time at Rice, the Owls. Yeah. So I do quarterback. You asked. I don't. If you look at the portal. I mean, part of it's kind of like the draft. You can only go after who's out there,
right,
or who's interested. I guess you can tamper, but there isn't the plethora of like future. He might be 3rd or 4th round pick. He might go to the Senior Bowl, or he might go back to college for another year, like Dylan Gabriel, like Will Howard, like some other dudes. So I don't think there's anyone. First of all, the guy has to be pretty good to step in here and start next year. And I also think from a public relations standpoint, I don't think recruiting 5-star quarterback after 5-star quarterback to go back-to-back years with a transfer to come in and start right away, I don't want to do that. I would rather let Julian Sand have the keys and go from there. If they do bring in a backup, I think it'll be more your Gunnar Hoke. Who's the other guy? Chugginoff and
Tristan Gebbia. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying.
Right.
He has a history of that. If he needs some, I bet he doesn't mean for sure they'll get one, but like I know Dave for sure wants 4 scholarship quarterbacks in that room. He's only going to have 3 right now. So I bet you anything he's going to go after somebody, probably a depth piece. I don't think that he's going to bring in somebody. Now, will it be under the guise that it's a competition? Yes. What did he do when he brought in Gunnar Hoke? He said it was a competition between Justin Fields and Gunnar Hoke, and he kept that up until about 2 weeks into camp, even though we all knew there was no competition there. So, yeah, I expect him to bring in a Chugginoff or a Gebbia or something like that to compete. Or not to compete, just for depth. I think Julian's going to be the quarterback next year. I'll be surprised if he's not. He needs to hit the weight room hard. It's not so much his height. He's not a tall guy. He's about the same height as Troy Smith, for example.
How tall do you think Troy was?
But here's the thing.
How tall do you think that is?
So Troy was listed at 6 foot. It was probably more like he's 5'11". I won't get people say he was 5'10". Even at the combine, he measured at 5'11" in socks. So I know he's not 5'10".
He's taller than that, Dave. Julian Sane is taller than that.
Okay, but my problem, he's not. That's the thing. I'm not worried about his height. He's slender. Like Troy was. Troy almost was built like a linebacker, and then going into his final game, he was built like a offensive guard. But after hitting that banquet circuit, but seriously, Troy was well put together. He was a strong dude who could take hits. Look at that hit he took in that Michigan game, that 2001 versus 2, which was called a penalty, rightfully so. That could have knocked most quarterbacks out. He bounced right back up like nothing happened. Troy's a tough dude. I think Julian's tough, but there's one thing about being tough. And then if you're 180 pounds and you get smacked around, that cannot end well.
He's got to put on weight.
Weight room hard
He's got to put on weight.
Yeah.
He's probably got to get up to what, 210, 205. He could do that. He's got plenty of time.
Yeah.
He's young, dude. He hasn't hit his I call it old man strength, or you start paying taxes strength. No, all those guys do that, so they should be not with their NIL money. But he needs to grow. Let him get a little. Let's wait a year. You know what I'm saying? There's growth years in college. Everyone can remember that they grow. I knew once he hopped that ball, he skidded that ball, we were going to get a bunch of people freaking out.
Right,
give him a break.
One pass.
I know. That's what I'm saying.
He sucks.
Yeah. I'm not worried about. I'm not saying put it this way. Do you trust Nick Saban?
I was just about to give you credit for that, Dan. You've pointed this out before. But before
Nick Saban, that was his choice. If you don't trust Nick Saban, move on.
Exactly. The GOAT wanted him. The GOAT wanted him.
Yeah. I mean, I have that literally is almost. I'm not going to say it's the least of my worries, but I don't have any. There'll be some times next year where Julian Saban will do some stuff that will impress people. I'm not worried about that. And I don't think you can keep adding outside people to the room when you spent all this time recruiting these elite 5-star guys. Look, the lineage is set here, people. It's going to go, if everything goes correctly, Sayin, St. Clair, Edmonds. That's already set. Something would have to change for that. And listen, many things can change. Guys can get hurt. Guys can transfer. Guys can be better than you expected. As of right now, that's the lineage you're looking at. And by the way, it's a beautiful lineage. I'm not sure Brady Edmonds doesn't have the strongest arm of anyone we've recruited in a long time. I stood next to Sayin. I'll find the picture here. He's 6'1". Sayin is about, and people love to hear this, he's about the same size as my son. My son is listed at 6'2" in the program. The first time they listed at that, he got on the court, and the commentator was like, he's listed at 6'2". He's not 6'2".
That's so common in basketball, though.
He's probably 6'1".
Yeah.
He's a good 6'1", and it's big enough. You just need to get to about 205 so you can take some hits. You can run a little bit. I'm not worried about that.
He's wearing that number 10. It's been a really good number for Ohio State. You got certain numbers that have just been really, really, really good for the Buckeyes, like 10, 7 is right up there. So
4.
Yeah, exactly. So
now
I think it's going to, well, right now, others, I mean, you think of like number 4, there have been some really good ones. You think
Curdy Sams?
Yes. Santonio Holmes. Yeah. Curdy Sams.
My son, both of them.
Your sons.
They both wear the 4 chain.
Hopefully both of them, because they play basketball. Hopefully they're wearing some Mando when they play, because you want to, if you're good at basketball, that's great, but you don't want to stink. So, wear some Mando.
Dave, hold on a sec. I want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
No, that's not what I want to say. This is what I want to say. So I watched the state semifinal game that North Shore played in. Devin Sanchez is 6'2", legit 6'2". In fact, if he wants to come here and be listed at 6'3", I would support that for him and his family. It looks different. 6'2" looks different. 6'10" looks different. Then when you stand next to a 6'8" guy, you're like, that guy's enormous. 6'2" looks different. And I'm telling you, when you have a 6'2" guy at corner, trust me, the other team knew he was there. It was one of the more boring things I've ever watched, to watch Devin. They literally did not throw at him one time. The other corner was going to Arkansas, and they went after the dude. So no one. I was going to say this. If you were trying to get your child, I don't think they did this on purpose, but if your goal is to get your elite son through football healthy, Devin had the best. They didn't even try him. I've never seen anything like it. It was literally like rooting for the Cowboys when they had Dion. The cameraman started getting fooled. He was just like, I'm not going over there. It was awesome.
Devin got the Sean Springs treatment this year, where Sean Springs, I love talking about this.
I
in
know
1996, Sean Springs, 0 interceptions all year as a corner. Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. No one wanted to try him. No one wanted to try Sean Springs. And then you had that Arizona State had a really good wide receiver. Poole was his name. And they went into that game, and Springs says, I'm going to shut him down. This guy was really good, and they had Jake Plummer at quarterback. And then after the game, they're like, how'd you do? He was like, I gave up one catch. So Springs was a little ticked off. He gave up one catch the entire game to their stud wide receiver. Sean Springs was awesome. And that was Devin Sanchez was like that this year at the high school level.
Sean Springs, fine DC native, DC DMV native, and the son of former Cowboys great and Ohio State, Ron Springs.
Yep.
But I think I'm not positive, but I think that Springs' sons, I think he has twin sons. I believe so. They're in the DMV. I think they're about to get to the point where they're pretty good. So I'll check that out for college value.
Yeah, he was really close.
That's an apple tree thing right there. You would want the Springs lineage definitely to come back to Columbus.
Yeah, he was really close with the late, great Dwayne Haskins. Still weird saying late with Dwayne, man.
Both attended high school in Montgomery County, Maryland. And so Dwayne had it rough, man. There'll be a time to talk about Dwayne. I'm sure we can always look back at that. But I'll tell you what, you want to do something incredible, go look at Dwayne's season when he was the starter. That is one of the things we do not talk about enough, at how good he was when he was here. I realize his life went awry and whatever, and he wasn't the great pro that everyone wanted him to be. Go back and watch the Michigan game when Dwayne was the quarterback and see if you're aching for 50 touchdowns, man. And it was something to watch. It was a show. So
and the 50th happened at the Rose Bowl. They're actually playing against Jake Browning. I was sitting there in the press box, and when he hit that 50th touchdown, I was like, bam. Yeah, how cool is that? Get 50 touchdowns in a season. I never thought I'd see that at Ohio State. And it's hard to do that. I mean, that 50 touchdowns is ridiculous. And to do that at the Rose Bowl, that was really, really, really cool.
Highland Park, New Jersey. Is he from Highland Park? I thought he was from right outside South Brunswick.
He was.
We would have gone to South Brunswick High School. I know that because I went to boarding school right near there.
Yeah.
And there were guys that I knew that knew him.
Born and raised in Jersey, and then went to high school in DC area.
He went to the Bullis School. In fact, so Bullis has a tradition. Bullis is like the number one place to go to summer camps and stuff. My boys were both at basketball camp there, and Dwayne was in line. There's this thing called Clay Boys, and I always wanted to ask him this. It's a Hawaiian shaved ice where they put gummy worms at the bottom, and the line starts forever. Dwayne was in line. I was always going to ask him what his special. Everyone has their special order. You know what I mean? Here's what I remember. I took a picture of my son in the front of the line with Dwayne there, hoping to get Dwayne in the picture. And when I looked at the picture, he was looking right at me. He knew exactly what I was doing. He wasn't fooled. He was a good dude, man.
He was. He was a good kid, man. Yeah, R.I.P. Dwayne. He was a great kid, and yeah, his 1 year as a starter at Ohio State was just off the charts. Great, which is how he could be a 1 year starter and be a first round pick.
Keep in mind, he beat out Joe Burrow. People don't want to hear that. People want to say that he didn't do that and he didn't put. Go look at the season he had compared to Joe's season, first one in LSU. Now I realize I just touched a nerve with Dave because he's got the emblazoned Burrow tattoo under there, but he beat him out, dude. Facts. Remember when JT got hurt against Michigan? Remember? He popped in there. That was awesome.
Still can't believe that they didn't let him play the Big Ten championship game when JT could barely walk the next week, but whatever. All right, guys, get some Mando. I love it. I'm not just, reading ads on a podcast. They have a customer in me. I absolutely love it. I was using the same deodorant for years. I've switched to Mando. It's fantastic. I like their cream tube deodorant. I like their stick deodorant, the kind I've been using for years from a different company. But I like the cream tube deodorant. Different scents. It's perfect for guys too because you smell good, but you don't smell like you have been like dipped in perfume or something like that. It's perfect. You have a little scent to you, but nothing overwhelming like you just walk through like a department store or something at the mall, and you feel like you're gonna choke. 72-hour odor control. I use it every day. I don't, but 72-hour odor control developed by a doctor, and we got a great deal for you guys. Go to Mando.com, use code Bucknuts. You're going to get $5 off a starter pack, which comes with cream tube deodorant, stick deodorant, and then 2 free items of your choice and free shipping. Again, shop Mando.com and use code Bucknuts for $5 off a starter pack. Please support the show and tell them that we sent you. ShopMando.com. Use code Bucknuts for $5 off your starter pack. All right, there we go.
What's your vibe on Rust?
On rust?
You think with Oregon?
Oh. I do think it helps Ohio State that they were able to play a game and they get 10 days off. It'd be one thing if Ohio State had to play and they had to get right back out there the next week. So now they didn't get banged up against Tennessee, which was great. They got to rest their starters in the fourth quarter, which was fantastic. So that was a game where they didn't probably even need that much rest, but at least maybe I'm spin doctoring here. To me, it feels like it's almost like the perfect situation where you got that game, you played your best game of the year, you've got the confidence now. Not too long of a layup, but just long enough where you can like rest, head on out to LA. They left yesterday, long flight out there. Of course, when you go to Donsk, when you have your own airport and you're flying charter, it's really not that bad. All the crap that you have to deal with that you don't like.
I don't mean that. No.
You go to
they
Donsk
travel
Airport.
Nice.
Ohio State has their own airport, charter flights. Anyway, it's still a long flight, so they were able to get out there yesterday. I like it. Now, how much will it hurt Oregon? We'll see. I think there is something to be said for that because they haven't had a situation all year where they've had over 3 weeks off between games, 3.5 weeks between games. So I think if anything, it helps Ohio State, but I don't know how much of a factor it'll be. What do you think?
I thought Ohio State had noticeably fresh legs in the last game, but it's hard for me to look back on those last two games just because they were so emotionally charged. It's hard to like say, oh, that their legs were healthy. I'm not sure, the Vikings would have had a good chance against the Buckeyes that night. You know what I'm saying? I'm exaggerating, of course. Please don't start an NFL
right.
goofy argument here, people. Work with me. I just think that
feel the sarcasm, feel it.
I do, and I agree with you that especially coming off the Michigan game, I wouldn't want to first come up against Oregon. Getting a little confidence booster and showing we know how to take someone to the cleaners was definitely needed. And look, man, I go back to this. If you really go back and look, I think it was Todd McShay. I'll just use him as the example. Ohio State had 15 draft eligible players, he felt like, in the game against Tennessee, and Tennessee had 6. And our 2 guys are going to get drafted the highest. That means draft eligible currently. So,
right. Not even including Jeremiah Smith and Caleb Downs and all.
That's what I'm saying. And our 2 highest drafted guys are 16 and 17. And by the way, they're the only ones who are going to get drafted who aren't eligible. So some of it was just, it's almost like statistically and emotionally, if you just take out the Michigan game, everything looks right. And then that thing just looks goofy. So I hope that's what it was. I actually, at this point in time, hope it was a mental block.
It definitely was. Ryan Day, I'm 100% convinced, went into that saying this Michigan team they're so terrible on offense. We're so good on defense. We're going to just run the ball at them and still beat them. We're going to beat them at their own game. It just became my colleague because he's on the beat. I think he does a really good job. Bill Landis. He flat out. We were all asking, I thought, tough questions. Ryan Day on signing day after he got done talking about the incoming recruits. We were able to finally ask about the Michigan game. I had the first couple questions. I thought my questions were good. I thought Bill Landis had a great question. He said, has it turned into a self-serving prophecy that you feel like you need to win the rushing battle to beat Michigan? It was like, can I answer that for him? Because yes is the answer. And Day did not, to Day's credit, he kind of said yes. Like, didn't say yes, but talked around it a little bit, but didn't get defensive, didn't like blow it off, like almost like admitted, yeah, we did go in there thinking like we needed to win the rushing battle to win the game. Again, I'm paraphrasing. It's just ridiculous. That was definitely the aberration. You said it best. You look at Ohio State's whole year, and there's one game that doesn't make any sense at all, not just because they lost to Michigan. That's the way they played. And I guarantee if they played again, Ohio State would win that game. Easy for me to say. I know. I don't care. That was the one time Michigan had a chance to win that game. Everything had to go wrong. Turnovers, multiple missed chip shot field goals. We're not talking about 45, 50-yard field goals.
The first pick.
College kickers miss 2 chip shot field goals. The worst offensive game plan ever that I've seen in football. I'm not exaggerating. And then what made that worse, as I keep saying, was the lack of adjustments to that awful game plan. They never adjusted. So, yeah, man, I think this Ohio State team, if they could get past Tennessee, I said that they're going to be really dangerous. They're really dangerous.
This is my last point on the Michigan game. Do you know how people look at JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, and they're kind of like they had really nice careers, but they didn't maybe have the careers everyone expected. I think that's a lot of that is because they followed Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, and Chase Young. That's not the guys you want to like. You don't want to be the guys to follow those guys if you want to be judged as a defensive end. Okay, you're talking. I mean, Nick Bosa is literally one of the best defensive ends ever to walk planet Earth. That's a fact. That's not an arguable point. Chase was a great high school. He was a great high school player, great college player, and Joey was probably somewhere in between there. The Michigan defensive tackles for the rest of time are going to be viewed the way JT and Jack are because they played behind Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant, probably the two best tackles they've ever had at the same time, and we tried to run at them the whole time. That's not going to age well at all over time. We won't have as hard a time running up the middle on Michigan ever again. Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant are both going to get picked in like the top 16. And that defensive tackles don't get picked that high. So any more fodder for them making that the silliest, coldest Saturday of all time and couldn't go to the bathroom. Let's keep it going.
I want to address this real quick. We have a question I want to get to. Comments. All right. Mitchell on YouTube. What's your thoughts on all these Oregon beat writers acting as if they're a blue blood program? Kind of silly to me. Thanks. Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe they have some older guys on the beat. I imagine the vast majority of the people on Oregon's beat have only experienced good Oregon. Oregon to me came on the national scene in the 1994 season. Gang green. The irony there was they had a really good defense. Well, they have a good defense now, but then for years what we know Oregon has offense and defense need not apply. But since 1994, they've been like a player on the national stage. Now, they've never won a national championship. And you're right, they really have no history before that. I do not consider them a blue blood because they're not. But if you're like a 30-something, even 40-something, definitely a 20-something, all you've experienced is Oregon, at least always, most of the time, being in the mix pretty much for the last 30 years.
Yeah, I think people also looked down on them because Oregon, when they came to prominence too, they were kind of known as like the Jersey team. They'd come out in shiny helmets, and it was almost a gimmicky aspect to it. And then, Chip went there and gimmicked up their offense too and stuff like that. And I do think there's a bias from east of the Mississippi to look down on West Coast football as being soft at times and stuff. There's no longer like that. Dan Lanning is a beast. Let's just be honest about it. He wasn't trained out there. He's trained back here and in the South. And look, dude, they're not going anywhere. They have, once it turned to NIL, if you were to judge them now and say who is the Blue Bloods going forward, you'd have a hard time leaving them out. If you're starting at 0 now and saying over the next 10 years, we're going to decide who the next Blue Bloods are based on how the next 10 years go, Oregon would be in the mix for sure.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. And that's all that matters now.
Yep. All right, guys. Happy New Year, everybody. Dan, you're going to be – I shouldn't put you on the spot. You're going to be doing the show tomorrow, correct?
Of course.
Awesome. I'll be with you guys. What we learned live after the Rose Bowl. Woo. Little evening version. We probably won't go into the next morning like we did for the Tennessee game, but hopefully it'll be a fun what we learned live after Ohio State, Oregon. Thanks to Dan. Dan will be with you tomorrow with you got both of the studs, the Dean and the Poobah. Oh, heck yeah. I'll be tuned into that. So Dan will be with you guys tomorrow. Thanks to Dan. Thanks to all of you. Really appreciate you guys. Happy New Year, everybody. Go Bucks.